And everybody, welcome to Sniper Sundays. I hope you're all well. I hope you've had a great weekend and ready to get stuck into the charts once again and attack a new week. So let's go. I'm going to start with the fundamentals first because, as I've explained before, when you're doing your analysis or your weekly analysis, one of the key things that you need to have on your checklist is to check the fundamentals. Always be aware of what's coming out, the fundamentals coming out for that following week. And every day when you do your analysis in the evening, it's very, very important to know what the fundamentals are the next day. So you're very aware and you're prepared should any fundamentals come out to affect the trades that you're trading in or the pairs that you're trading in. So Monday, tomorrow, we've got some Japanese yen news coming out, which we'll need to keep an eye on. This can affect, obviously, pairs GBP, JPY, USD, JPY, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on this. Tuesday, no, not much news. Wednesday morning, we have some Euro news, some PMI from France and Germany at 8:15 and 8:30. So I'll be keeping an eye on the markets at that point and keeping us updated then. Thursday, we got Australian news. The Royal Bank of Australia will be speaking. Then we have more Euro news at 12:45 and 1:30, all UK times. We have some the policy statement. We have the ECB press conference. So this should be quite a big mover, or can be quite a big mover in the market. Then Friday we just have some GDP news from the US dollar. So nothing too major or too drastic this week fundamentally wise, but they're the things that we need to keep an eye on. So Euro USD. Let's start off from here. Actually, I want to start with the US dollar first. Obviously, US dollar, strongest currency in the market that affects not the strongest, but affects most of the pairs. So what we can see here is this week, last week, not really a doji candle, but a bit. You can see indecision in the market, nevertheless. So a doji candle basically shows indecision, when the buyers and sellers don't really beat each other and markets at a little bit of a standstill. Now we have had this morning star formation on the weekly chart here, 1, 2, 3, off that support, but we haven't managed to keep pushing up any higher. Now last week I said a little bit of a choppy week on the US dollar. If I drop down to the daily chart, we did see a little bit of a push up, but we only ran into that sort of resistance level there that I mapped out last week. So we've tapped that now for the third time, 1, 2, 3. And we've seen that nice push down to the downside, but we were halted by the trendline support here. And we saw on Thursday evening, we marked this out and we saw this little fake out to the downside, and all Friday we basically continued to push higher. Now we are quite choppy with the US dollar at the moment. If we just look here, if I just get this, you can see basically through here for the past couple of weeks. If I just go to the daily chart again, see this sort of level. These are the daily charts. You see we've had a push up, push down, push up, push down, and we're struggling to break out. We are sort of forming this bit of a triangle formation as well. So I think we may see some basically sideways movement for maybe Monday, Tuesday, and before seeing a breakout. So we're kind of consolidating at the moment, deciding where we want to go next. We can't break out of the upper trend. We can't break out of the downtrend properly. So we may retest the top, have a fake out to the top, then push down. We might even push down, have a fake out to the downside, then push back up. But I'm going to be patient and wait and not guess the market and wait for the market to show us its hand, show us the signs that we want. For instance, if we saw this pair coming down and saw a spike to the downside, reject that 96.50 level again, and then price pulls back up within here, then we could possibly look at taking long trades. But I want to see these sort of signs from the price first, and let us know what way we're going to go next. So looking at Euro USD weekly chart, obviously US dollar pair, we can see here we also had that choppiness. We had that evening star formation opposite to the US dollar, where we had that morning star formation. Just stretch this out. as you can see here, that morning star formation, 1, 2, 3, that we've got here. So we had the opposite on US dollar. Obviously, if US dollar goes up, then Euro USD goes down, or it should push down with the strength of the US dollar. So we've got this evening star formation, and then since then we've just kind of consolidated within this little range. I'll drop down to the daily chart. Again, you can see that we've had that little daily range here. We had that big push down, then we came back up and found support here at this 1.1200 level. Here, so we found support and we pushed back up, then pushed back down, then pushed back up again, and we're basically trying to break out, but not trying to break out, but trying to figure out which way we're going to go next, and we're just consolidating. So exactly the same as the US dollar, I'm going to stand aside and wait. We can't seem to break this trendline support at the moment, but remember we do have the Euro news next week on Wednesday. So what you may have noticed now is that often at the early part of the week, we see some fake moves. We see the market move in a direction that then on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, we see complete opposite. So, given that there's news coming out, don't get caught out by, for instance, an example, price pushing down here, Euro looking weak, and the US dollar looking weak, this looking weak, Euro US dollar looking weak, and then on Wednesday, possibly the news, we might see a push higher. Obviously, that can happen vice versa. We could see a push to the upside before from here, then coming down lower, maybe come down to this 1.100 off to the back of the news. So we'll have to see. But basically, I'm going to wait and be very patient around this area to see how price reacts. Even possibly if we break out, we can just wait for price to come back to retest, and then we can look at taking a trade. So, same as if we break lower, we could wait for price to come back and retest before taking a short. If we don't get in, if we don't see a fake out, for instance, like I said, if we see a break to the downside and we pull back up, we could see a long trades. So there's lots of options around here. I'll be looking out for this next week, and we are just moving sideways. So let's make sure we don't have another week of just moving sideways and get caught in a trade. Let's let the price show us some price action and give us an opportunity or some sort of a setup to get into. Now, Euro GBP. So good week with this. Finally, we had this on the evening, on the daily. We can see this nice evening star, 1, 2, 3. Nice evening star formation, bounce off that round number 0.9050. We push down and we try to break out of this rising wedge once again. Now we have got this support here, which I highlighted. I just want to get rid of this for a second, just so we can see how the weekly chart looks on this. And then you can see there, once again, we had that rejection last week. This might be that last push above, taking any other trades out above the last previous week here. So obviously short trades were looking very inviting last week with that weekly candlestick rejecting 0.900. That's why any trades we have to move our stop losses to break even or have that stop loss. If we do take a hit, then we can get in at a higher level like we did and ride this all the way down. So we're at the very top here around the 0.9050 level. You can see that big push down on the weekly. This looks really good now to roll over and start pushing down next week. So daily chart, as I mentioned, to take some profit around this level, because we might be creating a neckline here. A neckline to this sort of head and shoulders movement. So this could be the left shoulder here. Then we may see a head, or not may see, sorry, this is the head, and then we may see the right shoulder come back up into sort of these regions. So we've seen a head and shoulders on the lower time frames on the 4 hour already. So as explained, take some profit around this neckline level. I'll drop down to the 4 hour. You can see, like explained, we may push back up to this 0.9000 level first, before then pushing back down to the downside. So that's the sort of setup I'm looking for next week. We may even be able to add positions to add another short trade from this level should the opportunity present itself. So we had the head and shoulders here at the top. we may have another head and shoulders. This left shoulder, we might come up to create another right shoulder here. Stop loss is at break even, so take 50% of your profit now, and then we may even be able to scale in and add another entry. So I'm looking out for that next week. Euro NZD kept pushing down last week. It looked like we may be forming a bottom. Weekly chart, you can see very bearish the week before, and this week quite bearish. And really, we got this resistance level here, and we have got support down at 1.6400, but we do also have this level coming through here. Let me just see, 1.660 is the level I was looking at. You can see this resistance, support, and we're coming to that level now. So we do have obviously potential to keep pushing lower down to this support, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on this level here, 1.660, that I was highlighting all last week. Now daily, we have this nice pin bar showing some rejection. Could be better, could have a bit more of a wick and a smaller body, will show even more rejection. But on the 4 hour here, we can see this morning star formation as well. And remember, this is a level of support. So we had that pin bar, but Friday, I said Fridays can be very tricky. We had this nice pin bar here, looked like we were going to push off, but we pushed back down. We had this 4 hour morning star formation. I'll be looking for price next week to come back up above here, and then on the 1 hour chart, if I just go down, we may then see price, if we can push back up above here, I expect price then to come down and sort of reject that level again, and that 1.660 level. And if we can, then we may be then able to take advantage of a long trade. So if we can break out, you see this resistance or this support here acting now as resistance. If we can break up higher, we could come up to this form of resistance, this last lower high here on the 1 hour. We'll just put that there. So we may come up and sort of tap that and find some resistance. But if we do come up to there and then find resistance, come back down, we'll be looking for support in this area, and then we can look at long trades. So it's the sort of setup I'm looking at for next week. Euro but obviously we need to keep an eye on the New Zealand dollar as well, which has pushed higher. So I do think there's going to be a little bit of consolidation around this level, but this is the sort of setup I'm looking for next week. Euro AUD also kept dropping last week, but just something I was seeing on the weekly chart here. This is why the bigger picture is always vital to look out for. You can see here we're coming down to this weekly trend line. So on the weekly we are bullish. Long term, you can see high highs, high lows, high. We're trending higher. Now we come more short term, we're bearish here, 1, 2, 3, 4. But we're coming into this level of support now, which we need to keep an eye out for and see. You can see here on the daily, we sort of had this fake out. Well, not a fake out, I shouldn't say that yet, but a sort of an attempt to break out. Now, similar to when we see these on the 4 hour chart, we highlight it and we drop down to the 1 hour. What we can do here is we've seen an attempt to break out on the daily. So what we can do is highlight that level, the bottom of that pin, drop down to the 4 hour, and now I'll be keeping an eye on this next week. So like what we've seen on examples last week, price may now fluctuate within this area for a little bit and consolidate. You see we have this resistance from this push down. We're finding some resistance here. So what we might see is the price consolidate, but should we fail to break and close below this level, so for instance if we push up higher, push back down, have a spike to the downside, but price doesn't close below and closes back up inside this level, that could provide a great opportunity to take a long trade with a short stop in case we do break lower, but we could then look at coming higher. But remember, we don't go just off the back of this and the price action here. We also cross-reference how the euro is acting against other pairs and how the Australian dollar is behaving as well. This is what builds up our bias and builds up our confluences to take a trade. So that's the sort of setup I'm looking at for this next week. GBP USD. So let me just clear this up a little bit. We had that nice move up higher last week as expected for a while, but we can see here we have broken back above monthly support or monthly resistance now at 1.2500, and we're now retesting that as support. Weekly looks really good. You see that big pin to the downside on the weekly chart? Big push to the downside, and we spiked all the way back up and closed above that 1.2500. So again, previous week we had this pin bar giving us a sign for long trades. You've got to look for longs when you see things like that, but you can't help if the market wants to come down and have this another manipulative spike to the downside. This is why stop losses are at break even, or we have a tight stop, so that if you do get taken out, then you go again, you get a new entry, and then you can see here where this highlighted area is. You have long trades from here at the very bottom of this huge wick on the weekly chart. Now, if you can imagine on the weekly chart, if this pushes up higher and higher and higher over the next couple of weeks, we've got an entry down here, right down at the very bottom. So daily, we can see here we've come back up to test this last. This is the last lower high. But this is what we're going to need to try and break through. That's going to be the immediate resistance. Also coming into this trend line resistance as well. So let's see how the market acts next week and see if we can push up higher. But we have had this morning star formation. We're back above 1.2500. So we should see this now try and gather some steam and push up. But remember, in the UK, there's a lot going on at the moment with within the politics, Brexit, different prime ministers possibly being voted in next week. So yeah, we need to be careful with GBP USD, and any GBP pairs have your stop loss at break even. GBP JPY is basically not really doing too much at the moment. We're at trend line resistance again. You can see here 0.1, 0.2 here, and 0.3. We've got resistance, former support. I'll just adjust this slightly. You can see here support, resistance. We need to break above this level to try and gather any steam at the moment. Daily, we've had a nice morning star formation like on other GBP pairs, 1, 2, 3. Then we had a bit of a choppy day on Friday. We pushed back down. Japanese yen. We got the Japanese yen news on Monday, so maybe off the back of that we can see this push up higher. But if you're not in this at the moment, stop loss is at break even. Stand aside, because I do think that GBP JPY, even if we are going higher, I think we might have another little push to the downside, a little spike first before moving up. So I will be watching out for this to come down and sort of retest these levels around here next week. So I'll be keeping an eye out for that. GBP CAD, really nice trade last week. So as I highlighted here, we got stopped out for 30 pips up here before we had this big push down. Explained to look for longs on the retest of this level. Came down, retested that level, and then we pushed up higher for about 200 pips last week. Now, if I just put that level there, get rid of that highlighted zone, if I just put that level across, this is why we zoom in on the smaller time frame to look for that entry. Then we just look out on the daily, we look out on the weekly, see the entry on the weekly chart, that big pin down. Now we're at the very bottom, in a couple of hundred pips up already, before other people now will see this weekly candlestick and start looking for long trades next week. But we're already a couple of hundred pips up within this trade, and at stop loss at break even and risk free. Now again, Friday, a little bit of a pin bar, so we need to keep our eyes peeled on this next week. It is due for a bigger retracement, a bigger push up. If you think about Fibonacci, for example, we always need to see a bit of a retracement before going back down. We haven't really seen much of a retracement on this on a weekly or daily, so there's a good chance that we could push up quite a bit higher on this still, at least to the 38% or some 38.2% retracement level. So keeping an eye out on this, but as always, never get too ahead of ourselves. Stop losses at break even. We could still see this come back down and push down to here and test support again, and even push lower. So we always got to be aware that anything can happen in the market. Don't be stuck on one decision. Be open to being able to change your mind at any time and even placing a short trade if needed, if you're already in a long trade. You have to be flexible and never think that you never set concrete targets, because as I said, anything can happen at any minute in the market. USD JPY, another pair that like GBP JPY, it's kind of just floating at the moment in the middle of in between monthly and the 2 monthly resistance or support at 10600 and 110. We do have weekly resistance at 10800, which is here, and we're trading just below that at the moment. But we're just again choppy, I think, due to the US dollar, and the Japanese yen hasn't had much movement recently, so a bit choppy here. Again, still in a long trade from 2 weeks ago, from when we took a trade down here, but looking for new trades on this. But at the moment, again, it's choppy, so I'm not going to jump into a trade that's choppy and looks like hard work. There's no clear sign on this at the moment, so I'm going to keep an eye on this coming into next week. Let's have a look here. Got a trend line coming across, so it may come down and retest the lows here. But I'll update on this next week. Maybe on Monday with the Japanese yen move, we might see some movement on this with the Japanese yen news. Sorry, USD CAD choppy. For in that highlighted region we've had all week. So weekly chart, we've tried to push up, but we keep pushing back down here. And we can see on the daily chart, similar situation. Try to push up, keep spiking back down. So as I keep explaining, I do think we may just come. We're very close. I think we may just come down and tap that 1.300 level first, and from here I might be looking at long trades. But at the moment, I'm flat on this pair, not in this trade. So I'll be looking next week to see whether we can push that down a little bit lower and maybe reject that support level first. Aussie dollar, I had that push back down that I was expecting last week. On the daily chart here, you can see push back down. So on the 4 hour, I explained this on Friday that I was looking for this to push down, then retest the monthly resistance level, and then we could possibly look at taking short trades from this sort of region and coming back down. So still looking at this setup for next week, and we'll be keeping an eye out on it. We have seen a nice bearish day on Friday. Weekly, we've seen a nice rejection off this 0.7050 level, and that was what I was waiting for. Remember last week, at the start of last week, I was explaining that I was waiting for price to come up, and even though we were very close to it around these levels here, I was expecting price to come up and tap that level first. Now we've done more than tap it. We actually broke straight through it with a strong day, but that's been reversed now, and we nearly covered about 50% of this candle by breaking back below. So I am looking for this to come down next week, but let's see what happens on market open. Let's see if we might come down a little bit lower first before retesting this. But I am looking at this key level being tested first before taking trades. New Zealand dollar, US dollar, likewise, I am keeping an eye on this for shorts, as we are aware. We had this big push up at the end of last week, so we broke through monthly resistance, came back and retested as support, and then we pushed up higher, and we're continuing to push up higher at the moment. We are being supported by this steep trend line at the moment, which we are currently just coming back to retest and attempting to break out. So this is interesting to watch out for on market open. But I do think that we may just be having a little bit of a pullback before one last move higher. So let's see if we can push up that little bit higher. Perhaps come up and test that 0.6800 level. I think it might be too early to look at taking short trades on this. I think the market wants people to take a short trade here, but then we'll have another squeeze to the upside, push up here, and then from this level we might be in for very nice short trades that we can hold back down. Now this is dependent on gold. As I said, gold is you can see the push back down here on gold has helped Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar on Friday have that push back down. But if gold is only having a pullback here before coming up higher, then that will help New Zealand dollar come up and tap this 0.6800 level. and it will also help Aussie dollar maybe pull back up and retest these levels for a double top or retest the monthly resistance level. So keeping an eye on gold. So we've had this sort of fake out, nice and clear, nice and simple. Support, resistance, keeping it nice and clean. See, we come up here, we've had a fake out above the former resistance. Lots of people looking to take a short here. It's pushed out nicely on Friday, but let's see how market opens now and it reacts to anything over the weekend. We've had an attempt to break out this inner trend line. We dropped down to the 1 hour. You can see here we've just attempted to break out, but until we come down and sort of break this trend line coming across the bottom here, I do think that we may still see yet another push to the upside on gold. So being very wary of that. Again, not jumping into anything too soon at the start of the week. Going to be keeping an eye on this and seeing how the market acts, along with the US dollar, which obviously what is the opposite of gold. US oil, so highlighted this region. Very interesting place on oil at the moment. We had the fake out here, and we highlighted that fake out on the 4 hour as well. And as I said, we now need to see a break and close below this for oil to come lower. But we're just coming back and retesting the former resistance at the moment. Again, really nice and clean. Don't need anything fancy in your chart. Simple resistance, support, and trend, and using the trend lines here. So you can see we've come down, tested this support here, try to push up higher, get people to take a long trade before coming back down, broke through. Market's trying to get short traders to take a short here. Now we're fluctuating. I do think we're going to fluctuate a little bit more, but there is still a good possibility of oil coming down to the downside. So always be aware of that. You can see here, this is what I've seen in the market do before from experience. Not saying this is the situation here, but see on Friday, this pin bar to the pin bar once again. I want you to take a long trade coming into the weekend before next week possibly moving down. So I'm just being patient here and waiting to see how we consolidate more within this sort of this consolidation zone. But please be aware that we have had a sharp move down, and we can easily push down to the downside still. If we do break below here, there may even be a short trade available. But I am watching for further rejection along the bottom of this support zone. I'm looking for further rejection around this level to see if that long trade that we're anticipating is possible and to come back up to the highs. But as I said, leaving it open at the moment, I don't care which way the market goes. That's something that everyone needs to sort of learn as well. We can make money if the market goes up or down, so don't get stuck in your belief of where a trade's going to go. If you think that this, for instance, oil, you're thinking, right, everything looks great, this is going to go up, and you look for a long trade, and you might enter a long position next week, and then on Monday, Tuesday, it looks good. But all of a sudden, it starts to look like it's slowing down, and things aren't looking great when it's up here, and we're going to come back down. There's nothing wrong with then changing your mind. And if the price is showing you something different, understand what price is showing you and change your mind. Be flexible with the market and go with it. Don't fight against it. So, as I said, just watching this consolidation zone next week on this area, and I will update on that. So that's about it, really. That's most of all of our pairs covered at the moment. We'll see if there's any other pairs to add next week. And also, guys, with the webinar, we've been working very hard on the webinar, sorting out the platform and the system so that it works perfectly and has lots of different features. But at the moment, it may take a few more, a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is on either Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm going to do a live stream, which is very similar to a webinar. You can still see me. I think there's still a chat option there, and we can have a live stream anyway, just to get it going and just so that we can start getting some questions answered. And also, I want to just start. I'm going to make a topic on each webinar and the live stream. And I think on the one that I'll do this week, I'm going to have a specific topic, which is going to be about risk management. It's going to be talking about stop losses and take profit, and I'll also show you some about how to apply monthly key levels onto your chart from like the top-down analysis. But I think we need to cover the basics. The top-down analysis is basics, and also the key, and like I always say, and the basics to anything is risk management above everything and above all. Risk management is the very first thing that you need to apply to your trading. And if you don't have your risk management right, it's never going to work. So there's lots of questions about it, questions about how our system. So basically, when we take profit, when we move our stop loss to break even. So I'm going to go in depth on that this week, and also, as I said, show you the top-down analysis, and then we'll follow that up with lots and lots of webinars to make up for the couple of weeks of falling behind. So as I said, no matter what, there will be a live stream this week. So I think we'll pencil that in probably for Wednesday. I will put out the exact details tomorrow for you on what time and date it's going to be. We'll get that sorted, and then the webinars, once we're up and running, I'm going to do some weekly webinars rather than one a month, so we get loads and loads of information, loads of education across to you guys, and we have lots of interaction and talking between yourselves and answering those questions that you have. So lots to look forward to this week. That's the setups at the moment. Market open soon. Again, always never be too eager in the market. Let the market settle. Let's see what's going to happen. Quiet day, Monday, Tuesday, fundamentally wise, before that Euro news on Wednesday. So we might see a bit of quietness in the market, but train yourself to sit back and not need to take a trade if there isn't one, because Wednesday, Thursday, Friday can be busy days. We can make lots of pips then. So let's not get caught up with any fake moves at the early part of the week. Have a great evening. I'll catch up with you in the morning. Speak to you soon.